Hey, what's up, guys? I don't typically make YouTube videos, but I thought this was worth posting. This is a Shulker Box Unloader, and if you're anything like me playing on the Bedrock edition, you get pretty frustrated with Shulker Box-based machines. For instance, I have this one right here, and it illustrates every issue that the Bedrock edition has with Shulker Box loaders and unloaders. There are some fairly consistent loaders out there, but I had never been able to find a consistent unloader that worked basically all the time. Uh, as you can see, here's this one. I actually took this from a couple of different YouTube videos, just trying to edit it and make it work, but it always tends to glitch the empty shulker boxes through the sides. So everything that you're trying to, I guess, unload from the shulker box would make its way down into the hoppers just fine. The problem is that only sometimes the actual shulker box would make it through. Most of the time, it would actually glitch out through the sides. Okay, so I came up with a design over here. It's definitely not optimized. You can see there's probably a lot of compacting that I can do with it, but the goal here was just to create something that would work 100% of the time. And so basically what I ended up having to do, I set it up. I started setting it up, I guess I should say, like you typically would with a shulker box unloader. Um, I have my dispenser right here. Got a couple of hoppers, comparator reading the output of the shulker box when it's dispensed. I just have this bulky clock uh, in order to, so whenever anything's inside of my dispenser fires this clock, the clock will keep going until that's empty. So every shulker that actually gets loaded into the dispenser will get dispensed one at a time, unloaded, and then brought down here. And I'll get to this in just a second. So there's a couple of issues that you typically run into with shulker box unloaders on the Bedrock edition. Is A, they tend to jumble your shulker boxes and the items that you want to sort or just unload or whatever it is that you may want to do. And they typically use different kinds of unstackable item filters uh, in some way, shape, or form, but they tend to, the shulker boxes tend to skip those. So the way that I've gotten around that is as the items are drained into these hoppers. Well, here, let me back up real quick. This hopper, typically, if you look up a tutorial for a shulker box unloader, you're going to see this setup right here with these two hoppers. If you look at it from above, this first hopper is the hopper that the shulker box sits on. The second one is where the comparator sits. What happens is, as the shulker box drains into this hopper, this comparator is taking output from the shulker. Once this shulker box is unloaded, this comparator turns off, which would signal this piston that would break it and push it over this comparator. So in the majority of the tutorials that you'll see, they basically try to separate them that way, having this hopper drain into the unstackable item filter, this hopper run down into a different stream, and it sorts them that way. The problem is that because Bedrock Edition is Bedrock Edition, and there's a lot of problems, a lot of times that shulker box that gets broken will fall in this hopper instead of this one, and it causes a great deal of issues. So the way that I've gotten around that is I just don't try to split them up. I send them both into this same hopper line, and I have an unstackable item filter that sits right here. So uh, pros and cons. Pros, everything is 100% sorted. I don't have anything in here yet. I'm about to show you kind of how it works. I'm going to let it test out once I finish explaining all of the redstone that goes into it. But everything is 100% sorted exactly the way that it should be. I've tested this thoroughly for hours and hours and hours. I've done a full double chest of shulker boxes filled to the brim with items, and every single time everything has worked exactly the way that it was supposed to. The cons here are that your shulker boxes that you're unloading can't really have any unstackable items in them. Like anything like tools or armor or anything that would be unstackable, unless you want them mixed in with the shulker boxes down here, because they will be sorted that way. But in my experience, if I'm going to be unloading a shulker box, most of the time it's going to be stackable items filling it up. Any of my unstackable items, I don't tend to carry too many of them on me, and so it shouldn't be too difficult to only have stackable items inside the shulker box. So here's everything that happens. I explained the clock, right? I have a hopper line that runs into that dispenser. Whenever that dispenser has anything in it, this comparator will detect it and will start this clock. It's just a comparator running into a block, powering this repeater, which is powering this comparator in subtract mode, causing the clock. This redstone runs in here. This block sets on the other side of this dispenser. So it's powering this block, powering the dispenser. So it's on a constant clock. Whenever it spits out a shulker box will sit there. It can't dispense anything else because the shulker box is taking that spot up. As soon as that shulker box is dispensed, this comparator reads its output. That sends a signal through these repeaters into this piston. This piston fires redstone block this way. This setup here inside, I have just any random item right here. So whenever this piston fires, nothing happens. But what happens is whenever that shulker box is empty, this piston will retract. That'll cause this redstone block to send a signal to this dropper. The dropper will then send the item into the hopper. Whenever this item hits this hopper, it's going to go in and it's just going to shoot right back into the dropper. But for that moment that it is inside of this hopper, it's going to send a signal into this comparator. This comparator is sending the signal straight through this repeater and into this redstone line, which is pulling down to this piston. That piston will fire and break the shulker box, allowing the dispenser to dispense another one. And it'll run through that cycle the entire time until this thing is completely full. There's no buttons that you have to press to actually start it. There's no really nothing that you have to do aside from throwing your shulker boxes into this double chest. So I can demonstrate it really quick. I have, let's see, what do I have? I'll put 5 of these in here. It's going to be 5 shulker boxes with 10 diamonds apiece, just to make everything run a little bit quicker. So you see they're going to go in here and they're going to start. It's going to be dispensed. Right now, all of those items are draining and moving into that far chest. It's broken, and that will drop here. And you can see the unstackable item filter whenever it gets broken. Boom. So down here, you can see we have 2 shulker boxes, and everything's kind of draining in here. So once this is done, what we should see is we'll have 50 blocks of diamonds, and boom, that's great. We'll have 5 shulker boxes. Yeah, so that's basically the whole system. Again, I've tested this many times, never had an issue. If you would like to see a full block by block tutorial on how to build this, I may consider doing that. Again, I'm not a YouTuber. I don't plan on being a YouTuber, but I just thought that this was enough to kind of share anybody that may run across the video. So if you want to see a block by block tutorial, I can do one. I still have a lot of optimizing that I want to do to this to make it a bit more compact. Maybe trade this clock out for something like an observer clock or something that wouldn't take up as much space. But realistically, I may not do anything else to this because it's the first design that I found that works 100% of the time. So yeah, just hope some people get use out of this. And yeah, that'll be all. Peace.